My guest is Troy Aikman, Hall of Fame quarterback, three-time Super Bowl champion with the Dallas Cowboys, Monday Night Football analyst on ESPN and ABC, the founder of Troy Aikman Enterprises and 8 Brewing Company. You can follow him on Instagram at Troy Aikman. Troy, thanks so much for joining me on Sports Business Radio. How are you?
I'm good, Brian. Yeah, looking forward to it. Thanks for having me.
So I had your teammate Emmitt Smith on with me a couple of years ago, and he said during his rookie year, he didn't know if he'd last more than 1 year. So he'd go sit in Jerry Jones's office and listen to how Jerry Jones conducted his business calls, and he learned real estate from Roger Staubach. At what point during your career did you start thinking about post-career?
Pretty early on. It's interesting that Emmett had those conversations with Jerry. I did as well. In fact, some of the best conversations I've ever had in my life have been over business with Jerry Jones. And in fact, little sidebar, I was on a flight with Jerry to Toronto. We were going to be playing in one of these preseason games over in Canada. So he and I went over in the off season to do a press conference. And so I had his undivided attention for a few hours. And I asked him, I said, Jerry, you know where I'm at financially. I'm just curious what you might recommend for me when I retire from football. And he suggested the banking business. And lo and behold, I ended up getting in the banking business there for a period of time because those words from him resonated when I was given the opportunity. But he's obviously a great one to learn from. But I was always aware of life after football. I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do. Broadcasting kind of was a sidebar, quite honestly. I didn't realize I was going to be doing it until about 2 years before I retired. But for me, Brian, I think it was more Roger Staubach that inspired me to get into business. And I've never even told Roger this. I've talked about it several times. I'm not sure if he's ever even heard it. But what he was able to do with his real estate company, of course, he was playing at a time when in the 70s when all of the athletes had to work in the off season. And then my era came along and players didn't have to work in the off season. Some dabbled a little bit, but I always admired what he was able to do post-football career. And so a lot of the things that I've gotten involved with have really been inspired from what Roger did with his real estate business and me really wanting to do something beyond just the game of football.
Wow, that's great. Is there anyone in the business world who you haven't met who you'd like to pick their brain and learn from?
Well, I was asked recently who's someone that I've not met that I've always wanted to meet, and the first person who came to mind was Warren Buffett. I'm a big fan of his, as is most of America, and would love to one day have an opportunity to meet him. But I do read a lot of his stuff and have seen a lot of his talks over the years. But yeah, those, and quite honestly, the people who have kind of impacted me the most are people that you wouldn't recognize. But one of whom is here in Dallas, a man by the name of Carl Westcott, who really served as not only a great friend to me, but very successful in business and has been a business mentor of mine. And I've learned a lot from him over the years since retirement from football as well.
You mentioned it was a couple years before you retired that you started thinking about a career in broadcasting. Was there ever a thought of joining a team's front office? I know you and Roger had a little bit of a stake in a NASCAR team. I know you had a minority interest in the San Diego Padres for a little bit. Was there ever an interest in being part of a team?
There was. When I was playing, I don't think I'm unlike most quarterbacks who played for an extended period of time. I think all of us, just by our very nature, feel like we could run a football team and run it very well. So I was no different in that regard. I really thought that it is what I would get into when I retired from the game. But I got married going into my last year. I had children, went through a divorce when they were relatively young, and was a single dad. And so broadcasting afforded me the opportunity to be home with my girls and really be with them during the week. I could take them to school, pick them up, attend all of their events. And then it wasn't until the weekends that I would miss some things. I had help that helped me out while I was traveling for the NFL, but then I was all theirs for the next 6 months during the off season. So it just really never lent itself. And I felt that it would be very selfish and irresponsible for me as a parent to go that route, considering the amount of time that it would require. And it wasn't until my youngest daughter graduated from high school about 5 years ago that if I was going to go that route, then was the time. And at that point, Brian, I was just really enjoying my broadcasting career. I was just getting ready to make the move over to ESPN. It's been really enjoyable for me, and then it kind of slipped me by. Will it come along at some point? Maybe. I doubt it, but maybe. And as I've often said, if it doesn't, and when my days are numbered, there will be a part of me that always wonders as to whether or not I could have done the job. I'd like to think I could and would be good at it, but unless you do it, it's just talk. So I certainly understand that part of it.
But if it came along at some point in the future, it might be something you would stop and entertain?
Yeah, it might be. I'm not opposed to hard work. I think it's been really the story of my life as to how I've gotten to where I've gotten. I feel like I've been willing to do what a lot of people aren't willing to do. And I think that when you look at anyone who's had any measure of success, whatever that means to each individual, I just don't think it can happen unless someone's really willing to put in the time. So it's not so much the hours that would be involved. It's really, I think, more about at my age currently, there would be a learning curve. Would an organization be willing to allow that to happen? It's a young man's game. It's a young man's world. So as much as I hate to admit it, I'm not as young as I might think I am.
You would be a great asset to any team's front office or ownership group, I think. And look, I mean, you've gotten to peek under the hood of a lot of different teams in your role over the last 20 plus years. So I think you're as knowledgeable about the NFL as just about anyone out there.
Well, I do. I appreciate you saying that. I do feel like I could be a real asset to an organization. Currently, I'm hopeful that I can continue to be an asset to my employer, ESPN, and keep doing this for a little while longer.
I want to talk about that in a minute, but before we do, Troy Aikman Enterprises. You started this 8 Brewing company as a part of that. I'm interested in how you started Troy Aikman Enterprises. And then, look, beer is a competitive category, but you've done really well. And I think you kind of found your lane in the beer industry.
Yeah, well, I will tell you that Aikman Enterprises is really, it's more of a holding company than anything else. It's not an actual business. But 8 Brewing is a legitimate business and one that I'm very proud of. I worked for a distributorship in Tulsa, Oklahoma when I was transferring from the University of Oklahoma to UCLA. And so that was my first introduction into the beer industry. And I enjoyed it. I worked on the trucks. I delivered beer. I built displays. And then the second half of that summer, I was riding around with the owner and calling on accounts and kind of viewing it from that perspective. And then when I came to Dallas with the Cowboys, became very close friends with one of the largest beer distributors in the country, in Barry and Lana Andrews. And I'm still very close with his daughter and son-in-law, Mike and Natalie McGuire. But I started thinking about it. It was right around COVID. I started thinking that I felt that the beers that were on the market, I thought they were old. I thought they were tired. I thought it could be done better. And just doing anything for the sake of doing it, to me, is not appealing. If it can be done better, then I'm all ears. And so I kind of started with this mandate as to how can I make beer better for you? Because I'm really mindful of what I put in my body and my health and wellness, and I'm pretty much obsessed with it, quite honestly, Brian. And so it took 2 years to come up with the recipe. And what makes 8 different than every other light beer on the market is that we have no additives. We add no syrup, sugar, sweeteners, corn, rice. We're the only widely available beer that can say that. So it truly is a better for you, cleanest beer on the market. And we've been now on the market for about 4 years. We're in Texas and Oklahoma. And we are seeing some real growth trends. And you're right, it's highly competitive. The odds were stacked against us. But if that was a deterrent, I wouldn't have gotten involved in a lot of things over the course of my life. And so I viewed it more as a challenge, and we're starting to see some real benefits from that and the momentum that we've got behind us. So I'm excited about our future and where this might go.
That's great. You mentioned hard work. If someone comes to Troy Aikman and says, we want to partner with you, we want to do business with you, what are some of the elements that you need to see from a partner in order to say yes?
It's all about people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it really is. I mean, the business model's one thing, and of course that has to make sense as well. It has to be something that I believe in and feel good about. But I've learned, you would think because of my athletic career, I would have learned it a long time ago. I think part of my success, as I mentioned, has been hard work, but it's also been the fact that I've been around really good people, both as an athlete and even now as a broadcaster. And in the business dealings that I've had, those ventures, the ones that have been successful, have been because of the people that are involved. And that really comes as no surprise to probably anyone who's listening to this. But I was involved in a company years ago that had cutting edge technology. It was in the oil and gas sector. And yet we didn't have the people who could execute the plan. And so it failed. And it was a big lesson for me because the product itself, it can't carry the day. You got to have the people who can execute it. It takes really talented people. And so that's really now what I bet on more than anything. And I feel that, I've got some strengths. One of them was that I could put a football pretty much anywhere I wanted. My accuracy was always good, even as a kid. But I don't feel like I've got inordinate skills. But I do feel that I have an ability to read people, and I rarely make poor decisions on people. Now I've been married twice, and that's no reflection on the women that I married. But the marriage has been my greatest disappointment in life. But with that said, I've made a lot of great decisions betting on people. And so if I'm going to get involved in something, I trust my gut as to whether the people I'm going to be in business with are the kinds of people that I can trust, that I can believe in, and can do the job that they're being asked to do.
There's a lot of business people listening to this that would love to have your gut and be able to read people. Are there traits? Like I've had people on this show and they say, I need energy and passion from the founder. Yeah. Are there traits you look for when you're saying, okay, that's the right person?
That's such a great comment by you or whoever's been on your podcast with you, because I think near the top, maybe at the top, when I've hired people, you mentioned, I was in the car business. I had to hire a general manager. I got into the beer business, and then once I got in, I needed to find a general manager. And I've made great choices in both of those. And what I think a leader of really, whether it's a sports team or in business running a company, urgency's vital. And that's what Jimmy Johnson provided for us with the Cowboys. There has to be someone in the building that when employees walk in, that they feel urgency as soon as they walk through those doors, that today matters. Every minute of every hour counts. And we're up against the clock, and we have some urgency in what we're trying to do. So that is really important. Extremely important. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how important I think that is. But in addition to that, they've got to be a leader of people, and I have an ability, and it's not foolproof, but I feel I have an ability to read people as to whether they're qualified to do those types of jobs. And in the business that I'm in right now as a broadcaster, I come in contact with coaches all the time for the first time, and many of them being assistant coaches, and a lot of them have aspirations to go on and become a head coach. And I'm pretty accurate on initial impressions as to whether or not I feel that person will ever make it as a head coach or be given the opportunity to do that. So I've just kind of learned to lean into that more and more over the years.
Let's talk about your work with ESPN. You and Joe Buck do such a fantastic job. I think you're the best duo calling NFL games, truly and honestly. How do you build that chemistry with someone? Because I've been a broadcaster too, and sometimes it's like the other person just shows up and you do your job and you leave and there's no bond or chemistry. It seems like you and Joe have an honest-to-God friendship and chemistry when I turn on my TV.
We do. I think that's been the key to our success, quite honestly. I think the viewer at home feels that. And it's not something you can fake. It just kind of has to happen organically. I think for Joe and I, it's the simple fact that we're pretty close in age. This will come as a surprise, but I'm a couple years older than him, actually. You know, he's younger than I am. Now, if he hears this, hopefully he's laughing. But, yeah, we went through, you know, not only are we roughly the same age doing it together, but we've also been through a lot of life experiences together. I mentioned the fact that I've been divorced. Joe was going through a divorce roughly at the same time as me. He's a girl dad. He's now got twin boys. So he's kind of he has gone down that road a second time. I'm not prepared for that, so I'm not going to follow his lead in that regard. But both girl dads for a number of years. He's a great father, a tremendous father, arguably the best father that I know. I get a little choked up about that, Brian. I'm sorry because of my relationship with my own girls and how much they mean to me. But it's a genuine friendship. I used to play a ton of golf. He and I used to go on golf trips in the off season, spend a lot of time together. He's still a tremendous golfer. I've kind of put the clubs away and haven't played much over the last decade or so. But yeah, we're genuine friends. This is our 24th year together. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah,
and we've been fortunate because there's a lot of pairings over the years that, for reasons that they had no control over, it just didn't get to continue. Whether the network lost football or they made a change with one guy or whatever, there's a number of reasons as to why that might occur. When I went to ESPN, I had agreed to go to ESPN before I even knew Joe would be able to leave. But it worked out, so we were able to stay together. And I think that at that time, we really, not that there was ever any doubt amongst us, but if there was ever a time where we both could have said, hey, it's been great working together, but you go your way, I'm going to go my way, that was the time it could have happened. But instead, I really wanted to work with him. I don't want to speak for him, but he apparently still wanted to work with me because he asked to get out of his contract at Fox and come with me to ESPN. And that all worked out. So we've gotten to continue to work together. And for however long I do this, I hope that the guy standing next to me along the way will be Joe Buck.
That's great. Our listeners are interested in process. So can you walk me through your week leading up to Monday Night Football? I know you're in production meetings, you're meeting with coaches, and then obviously it's showtime. But what does that week look like for you?
Well, it's probably fitting that we're talking right now because here's my boards.
Wow.
I print these out, both sides, both of them, and all that. So I work on these on Tuesday after my prior game on Monday night, get them printed out, start watching film, making notes on my board, talking to various people that I'm close with, to get some insight on the various teams. And it's a week-long process. And then you get to Monday night, and it's an open book test. I've got my boards right in front of me and study those throughout the week. And of course, we have production meetings with the teams that are involved as well. But I enjoy the process, Brian. I mean, quite honestly, when I was growing up, I had some real jobs. I hauled hay when we moved to Oklahoma out on the farm. I helped my father build our house that we lived in
Wow.
there in Oklahoma. I welded one summer when I was 14 years old. My dad's a welder by trade. So I worked at an auto parts store on weekends during the school year, and then 5 days a week in the summers. It was just a part of the Aikman life that if you were a son or a daughter of Ken Aikman, you were going to work, and you were going to work hard. And my dad arguably is the hardest worker that I've ever known. And then when I went off to college, I worked pipeline in the summers. But since then, once I got drafted at 22 years old with the Cowboys, I don't feel like I've worked a day in my life. I put in hours, but I enjoyed the process as a quarterback preparing. And I enjoy, even 25 years now into broadcasting, I still enjoy the work leading up to a broadcast. In some ways, I enjoy it as much as I do the actual job of broadcasting, much like I enjoyed practice probably as much, if not more, than playing in the games. So I'm one of the fortunate ones. There's a lot of people in this country that wake up each day and really look forward to the weekends. I look forward to each and every day, and been very blessed.
You are lucky, but you worked very hard to put yourself in this position. I want to spend a few minutes talking about your Hall of Fame career with the Cowboys. One of the things that strikes me, and I watched the Netflix documentary, but obviously followed your career when you were playing too, the bond that you had with your teammates, and like you said, with Jerry Jones, and obviously with your coaches, it just seemed like one of those championship bonds that lasts a lifetime. I would imagine you still stay in touch with everyone, and it's just some bond that will never be broken.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's a bond that wouldn't be broken regardless of whatever success we may or may not have had on the field. But when you go through what you go through as teammates to prepare yourself for a season, and then those years culminate in world championships, then those bonds become even stronger. And so had a number of great teammates, great people. We don't see each other as much as we'd like, but we still do remain in contact. And there's been a number of coaches. I knew one way of doing it. It was with the Dallas Cowboys, but a number of coaches, as you know, they moved on and went to other places. And when we do get together, all of these coaches talk about how special the group was that we had in Dallas. So we were there, and I credit Jimmy Johnson with that, the type of players that he drafted and brought in to the organization, really talented, smart people. But it was unique. It was special in its own way. And these coaches who went on and coached 30 years with a number of teams would point back to our teams with the Cowboys and say that was special. And not that that's lost on any of us. We knew how unique it was. But again, just fortunate to have been a small part of the successes of those teams. And with that said, Brian, I was tough. And if you watch the documentary, maybe you walked away from that with that impression. But my job, I felt, and what I was paid for, is what we were all paid for, was to win football games. I wasn't paid to go throw for 4,000 yards. Emmett wasn't paid to go rush for 2,000 yards. We were ultimately all paid to be the best team that we could be to win games. And that's what matters most. And so I was of the mindset that I was going to do everything in my power that I felt was required for us to be successful and win. And that's what I'm most proud of. We won a lot of games while I was the quarterback of the Cowboys. And most importantly, we were able to hoist 3 Lombardi trophies.
Well, and you had such a rough rookie year, the whole team did, and to go from that to winning 3 Super Bowls, that was my main takeaway of watching the Netflix documentary, is you came from a really tough place and became multi-time champions. That is super impressive.
And in a relatively short period of time. And when you're on a team that goes 1-15 and it's your rookie year, and you as the quarterback were 0-11 as the starter, I never doubted that at some point in time we would be good. And I never doubted that at some point I would be part of a Super Bowl champion team. But I'd be less than sincere if I told you I thought it could happen as quickly as it did.
Yeah. You cover the NFL obviously very closely. Is there one thing that you look at and you say that's a challenge the league needs to overcome?
Well, that's a good question. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm the right person to answer that question. I do know that the league, I don't know that they've made any, and if they have made some, it's been very few missteps.
Right.
I mean, the NFL it's about as good as it gets.
Yeah, it's king.
And yet, I don't think I'm a cynic. I think I'm a realist more than anything. I've always believed that everything that goes up must come down. Just the law of gravity. I do believe in that. And I wonder when the tipping point is going to be with the NFL, in that we no longer see these incredible trajectories of popularity and revenue and all that's gone well for the league. I don't know when that might occur, but it just feels like, and it's been proven, that there's this insatiable appetite from America they just want NFL football. It's not that they want football. We've seen a lot of secondary leagues come about that just haven't had the same success, but there is an insatiable appetite for NFL football. And I've been thrilled to be a part of it. My one concern would be that decisions, if they're being made, are we at times getting away from the product on the field? And, are we making decisions that are based on growing revenue and maybe not paying attention to the product that's on the field? That would be my one concern. I applaud the changes that have been made for player safety.
Yeah.
And with that, the game has changed dramatically. The game, if you watch even highlights from the 90s when I played to today's game, you wouldn't recognize it, quite honestly, other than the fact they're playing with an oval ball. You wouldn't recognize it as being the same sport in a lot of ways. But yet the popularity continues to grow. It's drama each and every week. The games are close. We got superstars. We'll always have superstars. So all of that's really positive, but that would be my one concern.
Yeah. Last question for you. I see on your Instagram, you are an avid hot yoga guy. And I tried it once, Troy. Oh my God. It is so hard. And I think I'm in pretty good shape and I'm an active person, but that was like next level. How'd you get into hot yoga? How often do you do it? Why are you doing it?
Well, it is the hardest. It is arguably the hardest thing I've ever done.
Wow.
I did it again this morning. People don't believe me when I say that. I was the guy who, before doing yoga, would run into housewives and they'd be talking about yoga, and I'm kind of like, yeah, whatever. And then you go out and you do it, and you realize, wow, this is really intense. And I've been doing it for 2 years, and it kills me each and every time I do it. But I've never been that flexible. And as I've gotten older, I've become less flexible. And I just finally said, man, I've got to do something about this. I have to try to work on my flexibility. And that's really what prompted me getting involved in yoga. And it's been great. As good as it's been for my body and my joints and everything else, it's been arguably even better for my mind. And I've been aware of that. I've been meditating for over 10 years and understand the importance of that. But yoga has really helped me. It's helped me in life as well, as crazy as that might sound to some people. But I absolutely love the practice. And now I honestly can't imagine my life going forward without yoga being a part of it.
Well, I look forward to more pictures on your Instagram. I saw you had Jason Garrett go with you.
Jason Garrett, he's in there.
When's Joe going with you?
He did go with me years ago. He was in Dallas for a game, and I was dabbling in hot yoga. This is probably 10, 15 years ago, and he came with me, and I may not get him back in the studio with me, but it's intense, and it's been a real positive for me.
So wait, here's my question. I did it once. You've done it for 2 years, you say.
I do it 3 days a week in the off season and 2 to 3 days a week in season.
When do you start loosening up? Because I'm not flexible either. I'm 57 years old. I'm losing my flexibility. When does it start to kick in where you start to loosen up a little bit?
I'll tell you when it happens. You know, I retired. I played 12 years and I retired because I had a chronic back injury that surgery couldn't help, and it just was debilitating. I was having to get injections my last year to even try to get on the field. And I started working my core a lot, doing some specific workouts. I hired a guy that turned out to be a fantastic trainer and helping me, and it alleviated a lot of the back pain. But I'm still dealing with it as I continue to age. The yoga, it takes me some time, and I hold some of these poses a lot longer, trying to get the back to loosen up. I find that, the last 15 minutes of class, I'm pretty much in the fetal position, just trying to survive the heat. But there is a sweet spot there, usually after about 30 minutes, when I start to feel like, okay, the body's finally coming around and loosening up a little bit.
I mean, for people who haven't gone, it's like being in a sauna. It's 110 plus in there, right?
It is. This studio that I go to in Dallas is one of the hottest in the country, and I think it's a bunch of masochists that own it. So,
and you're in there for an hour, right?
In there for an hour. Oof. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Troy Aikman, Hall of Fame quarterback, 3-time Super Bowl champion with the Cowboys. You can catch his terrific work with Joe Buck on Monday Night Football on ESPN and ABC. Go try 8 Elite beer. I can't wait to try it. I'm in Oregon, so I don't have it here, but I'm going to get my hands
That's where
on
we got it. That's where the recipe was born, was in Oregon.
Really?
Yeah, we went to Oregon State. They've got a tremendous beer program in their food and science department. I mean, it's world class, and so that's where I went to Corvallis.
Wow.
Spent some time there at Oregon State going over the recipe. Had some experts. Took 2 years to develop it. So yeah, Oregon's a very meaningful place to me.
Okay.
Even though I haven't spent much time there, but hopefully we've got a lot of good stuff happening with the brand, and I would imagine that we'll be beyond. Right now we're in Texas and Oklahoma, but in the coming years, I would expect that we'll be expanding beyond that and begin to start hitting the West Coast as well.
Congratulations on that. Troy, I've wanted to have you on Sports Business Radio for a long time. Thanks so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join me.